Okay, on today's video, we're going to look at Buddhism. And so first of all, who was Buddha? He was an Indian prince named Siddhartha Gautama, and he was born in 560 BC, and he lived a life of luxury in his father's palace. He learned the ways of Hinduism, he was married, and he had a child. Now, if you remember when we talked about Hinduism, they believe in the caste system. So if you're born into royalty, if you're at the top of the caste system, then that's your station in life. That's where you'll stay. But then there are those who are even known. They even call them untouchables, and those are people who did the dirty jobs, having to touch the dead, the morticians, the garbage collectors, those people. And so one day, Siddhartha Gautama, he took a tour of his father's kingdom, and he became very concerned with how people were suffering. He left his palace, his wife, and his child, and he set out to understand the problem of suffering. So obviously, this person was a very compassionate person. He cared about, even though he lived in luxury and royalty at the top of the caste system, when he saw how people were suffering, it really bothered him. So he went out and he was meditating under a tree throughout the night one night, and he realized that suffering comes from our own minds and actions. Because of this enlightenment, Siddhartha Gautama became known as the Buddha, which means the awakened one. Buddha developed the Four Noble Truths to guide people through the problem of suffering. All right, so he believed that suffering was just in our minds, which is interesting. We just talked about Christian Scientists, and they believe the same thing, or a very similar thing about sickness, that it's really all in our mind. All right, so he developed these Four Noble Truths. It's the foundation of Buddhism. Number one, you have a realization that there is going to be suffering in life. It's a part of life. The second thing, people must realize the causes for this suffering is their own cravings and desires. So Buddhists, they seek to live a very simple life. They don't believe in materialism at all. They don't want to have a lot of things. It's very simple. And so they are really always trying to suppress desiring things and having cravings. Number three, suffering can be overcome or avoided by letting go of these cravings. So the universe is connected, where whenever we act or think, we create a reaction. This process is known as karma. Positive actions create positive karma. Negative actions create negative karma. However, finding enlightenment comes from understanding what it means to empty our minds. So you've heard this word karma before. It's used in the media, Hollywood, in movies and things. And so this idea actually comes from Buddhism, if you've ever wondered where it comes from. So we can let go of our cravings by following the Eightfold Path. We can reach nirvana and end to the cycle of birth and rebirth by following the Eightfold Path. It consists of right living, right aspirations, right speech, right behavior, right occupation, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation. And I have this wheel, kind of like the wheel of life that explains each of these things. So the first thing is knowing and understanding the Four Noble Truths. So if you're a Buddhist, we would know the Four Noble Truths. You also want to follow this wheel. Right thoughts, that you're caring for others and being unselfish. Right speech, telling the truth, speaking kindly and wisely. Right action, not harming others, stealing or cheating. This is interesting to me. Right livelihood, working to the best of your ability and being in a job that does not harm others. So even when thinking about picking an occupation, many of you all of you are deciding what your next step is going to be after graduation, what your occupation is going to be, what you're going to go into. And if you are Buddhist, you would make sure that you're going to pick something that is beneficial to other people. All right, number 6, right effort, working hard to keep the Eightfold Path. Right mindfulness, being aware of the effects of thoughts and actions. And right concentration, a peaceful state of mind gained from following the path. So Buddhists, they really seek to be very moral people, people who they don't want to harm the environment, they don't want to harm others. Okay, so what's the difference between Christianity and Buddhism? Buddhists don't necessarily believe in any kind of God. Buddhists feel that we can't really know how the universe began, and that people who have opinions about our origin can't possibly know the truth. Rather than wasting time on unanswerable questions, they concentrate on dealing with their personal situations. However, Genesis 1 clearly states that God created the heavens and earth, and while it may be impossible to prove creation, it's certainly important to consider how we came into existence. Ignoring this question altogether can be dangerous and a detrimental position. Evidence of the Creator is really all around us in the beauty of nature. All right, so the primary difference between Buddhism and Christianity is really found in how you look at yourself. If you think you can overcome your desires and sins on your own strength, Buddhism may make sense. But if you believe it's impossible to make every sin right on your own and to completely overcome your sinful nature on your own, then you realize your need for help. Thankfully, God offers that help through his son, Jesus Christ. So many Buddhists, including the Dalai Lama, believe that people should live by whatever faith system works for them. While this might be comforting to others, it presents some serious problems. First of all, Jesus claimed that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And as C.S. Lewis, the famous writer, once argued, Jesus was either crazy, an evil liar, or he was telling the truth, that he is the truth, the way, and the life. So if Jesus was crazy, then you can't really believe much of anything he said. It's hard to believe he was lying because he could have avoided being executed by simply changing his story. And it doesn't really make sense to say that you believe part of what Jesus said because you'd believe the teaching of a liar or a crazy person. So Jesus said he was God. Either he was or there's a serious problem with his thinking. All right, so obviously as Christians, we do believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that through him, we have the fruits of the Spirit when we have the Holy Spirit living in us. And so therefore we can live morally, we can live unselfishly, we're full of love for others. Also, he gives us the great commandment that we love him first, and then we love others, our neighbors as ourselves. We love our neighbors second. And so also the fruits of the Spirit of self-control. And so, yes, we believe that we can have self-control and that we can choose not to sin. But that's with the help and the power of the Holy Spirit that lives in us. So very different from what Buddhists believe. Okay, so here is how they would answer the questions of worldview, what they believe about God, Jesus, the world, human beings, sin, and the afterlife. And so you can pause it here and fill out this part of your worksheet. Okay, so our next video, which will be the last video, is we're going to be looking at Christianity and what is our worldview as a Christian? How do we answer these questions? And then that will be the last video for our world religion study. Okay, have a great day.